Good afternoon, Jan.
Michael, good afternoon. How are you?
Doing well, very well. Yeah, I've started undertaking another largish refactor. I guess this one's actually pretty large in Janaga JS.
Okay.
so so yeah, you might see a new pull request out there where I'm collecting a bunch of stuff, but
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. The idea that I had in the source code when I first started it is getting kind of old, and it really didn't pan out. So I'm, uh, yeah, I
And
get
and
kind of upset every time I look at it and say, yeah, no, it shouldn't be like that.
and what was the focus of this refactoring?
Yeah, the original was kind of inspired by Express, the whole pipeline thing. So it's like, okay, let's have every component that acts upon a Janaga, yeah, instance, um, be a decorator that you string together in the pipeline. So at the very bottom, you've got the store, and then on top of that, you put the observable, um, and then you've got a fork that can go down to the store or can go out to the network. And then on top of that, you put authorization, and then on top of that, authentication. And it's like, oh, all right, everything just flows on through. But
Yeah.
so it basically adds functionality as you go, and most of the lower level functionality is just to pass through from one to the next, and it's just really hard to see the whole behavior. Um, so yeah, as I
And and then in what sense you changed it?
yeah, so now rather than have all these strategies stacked on top of each other in a pipeline,
Mhm.
I'm flattening that out, which is actually very similar to the way that I started in Janaga.net, which ironically is similar to what correspondence look like on the inside. It it has a fact manager and a network manager, and so the fact manager knows all of the strategies that deal with facts, and then the network manager knows the strategies that deal um, with talking to talking to something upstream. Um,
Okay.
so
Mhm.
um, so yeah, and then there's going to be complexity inside of the managers to figure out, okay, which one does which. Um, but at least all that complexity is in one place where you can see it versus having to parse through this, then this, then this, and this in order to figure out what's happening.
Okay. No, I saw that a lot of things were moving in GitHub, but
Yeah.
I didn't I didn't went in. I wanted to focus on the SQLite,
Yeah.
and things are moving there, but way too slow.
Mm.
I'm getting so far that the description, the result description, is almost implemented for
Mm-hmm.
the easiest case. But for the easiest case, and then we still have to the generation for SQL after that. So it's the path
Mm-hmm.
conditions, it's the existential condition. We don't need it for the easiest case, just the
Mm-hmm.
successor.
Yep.
Uh, so, but it goes terrible slow. But in the process, I'm learning, and
Yeah.
each time I'm learning something, it speeds up.
Yeah. Well,
But
as long as you're enjoying yourself, that's one
yeah,
of the important things. The other important thing is that you can actually ship a new version of DWS that
yeah,
people will enjoy.
yeah. That one that should come further, but yeah, one day it will.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I live on my old software, uh, so my customers left me a little bit quiet, so I had some time to work on it now. Um, One thing I found out there
Mm-hmm.
was where was it exactly? In Postman. If you do a projection just on a fact,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't work. Let me show you.
Oh, okay. I think I know what. Yeah. In
If you
fact,
if you project it on a field, then it works.
yeah.
Okay.
That
It's somewhere in the parsing, because he tells me expect to find a dot
mhm.
after the fact, and finds quotes, double quotes.
Yeah, yeah.
And if
Basically,
you
it finds
run
the end of
this,
the stream. Yeah, it's like there's
yeah,
nothing more
and
here.
if you run the same in specification language from Postman, then everything works fine. Now Postman is using the read interface, and .NET Interactive is using a fetch, a feed.
Yeah, yeah,
So maybe that's the difference.
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't go and search what was the problem, but
yeah. So you actually have it exactly right. I shouldn't sound surprised when I say that. Sorry. The uh, yeah, the parser is the problem there, and in fact, that was one of the first things that I ran into when I started this new branch. Because really, the purpose of this branch is to make Janaga.js client speak the specification language to the distributor.
we're talking about the developments you were doing now in Jinaga, or
Yes,
okay,
yes. Um, so that'd actually be a good idea to bring that up, just to have something to point to. Okay. Let's do the screen share. And make sure that everything is streaming properly. Okay. So that's what I want to share. There we go. Okay. All right. So the pull request that I've got open right now is really labeled load new specifications from the replicator. It doesn't actually need the big refactor that I've started on this branch, but yeah, ultimately what I'm trying to do is send the specification using the feeds endpoint, just like you said with the um, the interactive notebooks are doing. And so yeah, the first thing is I ran into, I need to finish off the parser so that all the specifications that you can create in JavaScript would be, the feeds endpoint would be able to parse them. And so that was the first thing. And then I observed, hey, it may also involve adding a network manager. Because doing that logic inside of the decorator pattern was like, nah, I don't want to continue on this pattern and then put this big old hunk of logic inside of one of these decorators. Yeah, I really want that to be surfaced. So if we take a look at the first few commits. Well, first of all, I have a better unit testing experience now. That was starting to bug me as well. But yeah, parse fact and hash projections. So this is the code you were just talking about. So
yep.
we find an identifier, and so the next thing that it was expecting is a dot, but now it's saying, well, if you have a dot, go ahead and consume it, and then do the field. Otherwise, that's a fact. Yep. So that's the area there. Similar for hash. You couldn't before use the hash as the main projection. You could use hash as a component. So I had a test that drove to that implementation, but this is the one of using just selecting straight to a hash. So now it says, okay, if you've kind of hard to read in this format.
So there you have this hash projection.
Yeah. So it's yeah, so if you do hash first, the hash symbol, then it's just the hash projection from that label. Yeah, otherwise it's the field projection, or the fact projection. So you can do that right after the arrow. This was inside of the consume the component. So if you're inside of a composite, then each component, that could be a fact now as well.
Okay.
Yep. So I made that change in the parser. Now, after this change, Janaga server will still not know how to handle a fact projection, or it will know how to handle a hash projection. So that part will be good. But yeah, Janaga server doesn't know how to handle a fact projection. So I have to think about how I want it to do that.
If we send it from Postman, no, but from .NET Interactive, it was working.
Yeah. Yeah, so from .NET Interactive, let's see if we have the... Yeah, that's not the one I'm looking for. The diagram I'm looking for is probably in Janaga server.
Somewhere in the README. I think.
Yeah.
In the .NET.
Oh, was that in Janaga.net?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
If it's the diagram that...
Yeah.
If it's the same diagram I'm talking about. That's on the
Where
next
is it?
page.
There we go.
In the README of that page.
Yeah, there we go. Cool. Perfect. So, yeah, what the interactive interface is doing is it's going straight after these entry points here. So you're doing the JDOT query and sending in the specification. So it's doing compiling the specification, loading it, all that stuff, and then it first converts that specification. Well, actually, no, it doesn't convert the specification yet. It sends it down feeds, and so yeah, the Janaga server. That is interesting. The Janaga server is not upset with that, even though it's using an old version of a parser that doesn't know how to handle that. Where is that transformation happening? Okay, so I know that the transformation from here's the specification, give me all the feeds related to that specification, that's happening on the server, on the distributor. But yeah, there's another transformation that yeah, I'm trying to remember if that happens on the client. Let's see if we can find out. All right, do I have a...
One of the strange thing is in the server, you still have the query interface, but that query interface is still doing the step-by-step
yes.
specification language.
Yes, yeah, I wanted to keep that around for backward compatibility. Okay. You don't seem to be terribly happy. Why are you not happy? Let's make sure that everything's up to date, and then do a .NET restore. Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was resetting my my NuGet cache. So, didn't have any of the packages cached. Okay, so let's start all the way out at Janaga. And so you're using the interactive notebook, and you end up calling .query. So it's the override that uses specification as opposed to... Okay, yeah, that's right. This one, yeah, spending too much time in JS and .NET. It only has specification. All right, so figures out if it can run on the graph. That's not the case that we're looking for here. And then, hey, here's that fact manager. So we do the fact manager query, and then compute projections. So query just does the first half of that, and it gives you back a set of products. So the products are this label has this fact reference. That label has that fact reference. That label, that fact reference. So you get back a list of those, and those are all consistent sets of facts that meet all those conditions. So compute projections is the one that we are really interested in here. So let's go to those that implementation. So go to the projector to get the fact references, then go to the store to load them, and then deserialize. So the projector is something that that will turn. Let's see, what does it do? Yeah, this is actually kind of a you can see it's a static method, and it's not asynchronous. So so this is not going out to it's not going out to the network for that. And let's see. So with the store, we are loading the references, but we should get the references before we from the server. Okay, so I think I might have skipped over the important part. Okay, so let's step back. So before we compute the projections, let's go ahead and take a look at the query. So there we talk to the network manager to perform the query, and then we run the query in the store. So I think that's where I skipped over stuff.
There we have the feeds.
Yeah. So I say, give me the feeds using that specification. So I think this is pretty close to, like, here's a HTTP network. Yeah, this is now down to the wire. So let's generate that that string for the specification. So first of all, it does the declaration. So it declares all of the facts and uses the reference description for that. Generate specification string. This is our last chance to do anything clever with the specification. Aha! There's the clever bit. The projection with only collections. Okay. So this drills down through all of the collection projections, and so those are those are what map to specification projection. I think we determined last week. And then so recursively goes through those, and so the compound projections, it says, okay, recursively go through each one of these, but then pull out the collection projections and ignore everything else. That's the trick. So when you go through Interactive Notebook, you're not sending the full specification to the distributor. You are sending a specification that has all of the facts and hash and field projections taken out.
Okay.
That's why it works. Quite a mystery. Yeah, I wonder if once I complete the parser, if I can just go ahead and send in the whole set of projections, if that's going to cause any problems, because when it gets to the server, when it gets to the distributor, what it's doing at that point is figuring out what feeds are necessary to provide the evidence for this query, and so during that process, it ignores hash and field. I'm going to have to make it ignore fact if it's not already doing that. So might be able to save some work on the client and produce the same results anyway.
Now, the way I'm working for the moment is, on one hand, I have Visual Studio, the .NET environment. On the other hand, I have Visual Studio Code with the server running in debug mode. And I'm sending the specifications to the server from Postman. So I'm not... and then, so in Visual Studio, in .NET, I have the tests, but I want to run the same queries, the same facts from Postman to see how the server is reacting and the data in the structures, whether it corresponds on my implementation in .NET and the TypeScript implementation on the server. But that means I have to take a step in between, pass through .NET Interactive, just to convert my link query to specification language. And what's also nice is to visualize everything. Because you had these visualization tools written in .NET, but it's an HTML string that comes out. So you can visualize it in .NET Interactive, but you cannot visualize it in Visual Studio. Now, what I did, I wrote just a small routine just to start up a browser and to send it directly to the browser, and then you can see it. But it's easier as a practical way to have .NET on one hand and to have Postman on the other hand. But it would even be easier if I didn't have to use Postman and I could send specification language directly from .NET Interactive.
Oh, interesting.
To the read interface. And what does it take to use that read interface directly from .NET Interactive?
That is a cool idea. So we are talking about what you have is Janaga.
Yeah. In Postman, you cannot visualize anything. You're really, while in .NET Interactive, you can just copy the code from Visual Studio.NET. You can visualize everything.
Yeah, so you do have. Okay, well let's see what it would take to do this. Let's say checkout -b, visualize specification. Okay, so so you are not doing the query in this case because you you want to write the specification language directly. So if you had something that returned the same kind of thing, it returned projections, and so this is, and we just call it read, and so now we pass in the t projection as the type. But then for read, what you really want to do is have the instead of passing in the .NET specification, you want to pass in the specification language.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, I'm getting my stuff confused. Okay, so yeah, what would it take to do that? So you can see here we are we're doing all this serialization, get the references of these facts, and then ultimately it's going to do a fact manager query on that. So fact manager query is the thing that that is first getting in here. So you really want to always send this to the distributor. So it's really the network manager query that you're after.
I don't want to send it to /inaga, but /inaga/read.
Yeah.
The read endpoint.
Yeah. So here it's still coming in as a specification. Yeah, you really want to just get all the way into this HTTP network. I mean, yeah, ultimately you want to call that guy. So right here, yeah, he's going to need. Okay, yeah. So we actually. You've already done that work yourself, so you've got just a specification string that that has some declarations at the top. You've declared your givens.
Just like we do in Postman.
Yeah. So you really have that as the input, and you want to call the web client feeds, and then you want Network Manager to continue doing its thing with those feeds. So. Yeah. Yeah, this is something that we'd have to kind of plumb things through a little bit, take apart, yeah, like for example, extract that to a function, maybe even be more explicit about it from string. And so then make a similar fork or make a similar extraction in the network manager one level up, so that you can just call this directly. And in fact, it would be let's just call that specification string there. So we were doing this work out here. Yeah, so make that public. And then out here in the network manager, there would basically be a read function that instead of calling feeds, instead of calling that one, it calls that one. And then it would do this same thing. So we would just switch that from one to the next. So basically we would extract that. Extreme refactoring. That's going to be load is actually, I think, the right word for it, because this goes through. We've got our feeds. Well, let's say load from feeds. All right, so that way we can have a new public async task read that takes a specification string. So I don't need given references or specification. I do want the cancellation token. That's good practice. And so I get the feeds from network that read from specification, which I think I've got an interface in between, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. Yeah, it probably should be called feeds from specification, because that's what it returns, is the feeds. And the cancellation token. Yeah, so let's rename that. Okay, so now we should have in HTTP network, that should be feeds from specification. I should use the rename on that. Okay, so that matches that. Which, actually, now that I'm in here, maybe network just takes the specification string, and the network manager does all of the string generation for you, because there's nothing special about that part. And every network is going to use that same specification language. Yeah, I kind of like the way that ends up being. So, so yeah, once we get that, then we should be able to get feeds from specification, pass in the specification string and the cancellation token, and then do the same thing here. Await load from and so that, just like the query above it, should run that specification, load it into the local store, and then by the time we get back here, we can run it from the store. So yeah, I think that ends up with, did I already start query up here? No, I didn't. So async task of, I thought I did. Oh well. Immutable. Yeah, I did say a T product somewhere. Anyway, it's going to be similar to that. I usually don't copy and paste, but so that would be read. That would be, instead of that and that would be specification string. And then here we do read with the okay, so now we've run into, here's the next thing, is store.query. Store.query needs to be able to run that query from that specification string. Yeah. Okay, so what would it take? Not too much more, but yeah, I think we're heading down the right path.
Actually, do we need to run from the store? Because in this case, we get the answers from the server.
Yeah, so what the network manager has done here is it's gotten back that list of feeds, and then it's going through and loading all of the evidence from those feeds. But yeah, what you're saying is, what would it take to just run the read endpoint? Yeah, and the read endpoint was not intended for code to run it. Yeah, that would basically be a new mechanism for loading loading facts. Right now, you can load facts from a fact record that you get back from the server. So it's a very flat data structure that just says, here are all of the here are all of the fields, and then these are the references for the predecessors. So it just has that fact record. But then when you load from those feeds, then it's going to put those into a graph. So that graph is complete. Yeah, so there's the fact graph that comes back. So it's doing a lot of work in order to get it down to, first of all, the evidence, and then that set of facts, put them into a graph, so that it can then bring it back up and then merge that graph into the local graph. And so that's usually what you want to do, because then you want to make sure that locally you have the correct information, and you can just run queries off of that, and everything's consistent. But for the case that you are going for, the read endpoint doesn't return a fact graph; it returns just JSON. And so converting that JSON back into the fact classes is that is a brand new path. Yeah, so it actually would be easier to complete this this path of being able to just send the specification string rather than send the .NET link query, and you would still be able to get back the internally it would get back the facts, and then it would run it through the projection that is inside of the store query. Yeah, I'm sorry. The store query is running the products. Where was it that it? Yeah, compute projections. That's the part that then takes that set of fact records and then gives you the projections. So yeah, it's easier to go ahead and reuse that than it would be to write something that hits the read endpoint.
Oh, it's just something that it would be nice from, I think, also further than just debugging. We wanted to use .NET Interactive a little bit like a SQL Management Studio.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could access all the endpoints from .NET Interactive,
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a nice diagnostic tool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. The way that I was thinking about it was not so much being able to access all the endpoints. It's that ultimately I want you to be able to explore the data that's in your distributor. And so as a person, you could explore that by hitting the read endpoint, or by writing some code that does whatever that code does, and then gives you back the results. I don't know if there's for specifically for what you're trying to do, there is some value in being able to hit the read endpoint. You want to know that that endpoint works. But as an application developer who's not actually working on Janaga, then there's really no difference to you.
Because they will even not get in touch with the specification language.
Yeah. So that new method, or wherever I put the other version of it, that new method doesn't offer the application developer anything new. So you, as a library developer, is there something else that would help? So let's talk specifically about the visualizations that you're using. So you're doing Janaga Graph Viz. You've got the renderer, and so you can render facts. That gives you a graph of all the facts and how they're related.
And you can render types.
Yeah.
And if you go completely to the bottom of that screen, completely to the bottom, there you have in fact render graph. So he's starting a process which is using dot to convert it to an HTML string.
Mm-hmm.
So that HTML string, we can use it to start, for example, Edge,
mm-hmm.
and then fetch just a data URI, which contains this string URL encoded, and then it will start. It will show you the diagram in Edge.
Mm-hmm.
That's something which I did here, which is working well, but that means you have to put the render function to use it in the somewhere in Visual Studio.
Okay. Do you actually have something running right now that you can show me how you're doing that? Okay.
Yeah, I can show you, no problem.
All right.
But then I have to, let me see this one. I make it a little bit smaller. Close that stream, then share. Jinaga.net. Still, no, I think you will compile. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Let's move that a little bit more to the center here. It's easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did here in the renderer, I didn't do anything. I went to SQLite store. Look here. This is the one. So display in browser, and it gets the HTML string, and that HTML string you can and let's put a breakpoint here. So what I do, I create my facts here, and then I say render my flight fact,
Mm-hmm.
So the message here becomes that HTML string, and I pass it to display in browser. Display in browser will just make process start info, MSH,
Mm-hmm.
the use shall execute true must be true or it doesn't work. And then it's just a data URI with escaped data string, and he starts. So if we would run this, so I go to my test explorer. I hope it's not gonna, it's this one, I guess. If I run debug, is he building because I was still working on, yeah. So now we should get to that breakpoint, and yeah, and that you don't see.
Yeah, so Edge has already popped up then, and it's got the graph in it.
I will show you. Can I share a second one? No, I cannot share. Change window. This one go live. You see? So
It
here you
is
have
still
this.
coming up.
See there?
Yeah, it's talking about. Yeah, it's having trouble sending that over. Come on, you can do it. This would be a good one for the thumbnail.
It should work.
But okay, yeah. So while that's trying to load, so it's yeah, it popped open Edge. It has the graph of the fact that you just added. So
Yeah.
if you were to do that in .NET Interactive, you could take the same body of the code and you should still be able to just run render facts and
But in
get
.NET
that graph.
in .NET Interactive, we can do it directly. Yeah? We don't have to, because .NET Interactive we visualize HTML. So we don't need to start up the browser for that.
Right. Yes.
That was the big advantage of .NET Interactive.
Yes. So I think that what you're saying is you can accomplish this in .NET Interactive, but then there's another step after this that wouldn't work. Is that?
Do you see meanwhile the
No, it's
browser?
still not loading. Can you
Right.
reduce the size of the window, maybe?
Yeah. Otherwise, I stop the streaming and start the streaming again. It's this one. I can lower the frame rate. Perhaps that.
There it goes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you see here he has that data URI.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even have to save the HTML to a file. I just feeding it directly
Yes. So
as an output.
so yeah. So right now you're working inside of a unit test. So so I'm trying to visualize where you want to be is you're working inside of interactive.
Well, interactive is easier because it's really interactive. Working in a unit test is not. Right. Let me show you. So if so .NET here.
Okay, there we are.
So in .NET we have these test procedures where I have my facts and I have my specification here. So I copied this fact and this specification to .NET Interactive.
Okay,
Let me make that window a little bit smaller. So otherwise it's not going to be visible. Streaming, then take the other one. It must be, I think that one. Yes. Now wait, I'm gonna take here the server because this one is still in debugging mode. So I want to show everything. I go to bash terminal. It's okay. So now the server is running.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is .NET, Jinaga.NET with
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing which I did here was I created a small script here to clean my database.
Okay, yeah.
Erase all the facts in the database. Since I'm not using the replicator,
Yeah.
I cannot just restart it. So that works fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started. Wait, let's run this one. So this is just the graphics. I use Jinaga. I use graphics,
Mm-hmm.
and I connect to my server here.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started with the company and department and so, but that one I'm not using anymore now. I made a second one, which is actually the facts that we use in that test procedure in
Right.
.NET.
Yeah. Yeah, makes
So
sense.
I run it.
And you
He
get
made the
the
facts,
type graph. Yep.
and he makes gonna be better.
Uh-huh.
So, and then this one are the facts. I run it, and he recreated
Mm-hmm.
all the facts. Yeah, that are random facts. Then I have my specification here in link format.
Mm-hmm.
I run it. I have a specification to string, so it gives me directly also my specification language.
Mm-hmm.
And then here I'm gonna query, and it gives me the result. You see?
Yes.
And then what I can do is take this specification language, and you see here it goes to flight, it projects to flight.
Mm-hmm.
I open Postman.
Right, and it does not work right now. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in Postman, I need to make flight.number. If I
Uh-huh.
just if I make it flight.number,
Yep.
say
Everything's good.
4247, if I make it flight, then it says
Mm-hmm.
expected.
Yeah. So the first thing that I can do is take the first few commits of the branch that I created this week and go ahead and get those merged in, and that way you'll have a complete parser here. And then I'll also have to follow that through to Jinaga server to make sure that it's doing the right thing. Yeah.
So in fact, concrete, it would be nice if I could skip this step of Postman,
Mm-hmm.
because actually in Postman, if you forget one simple thing, one space in between here, you don't see it,
Yeah.
and you are in big trouble.
Yeah.
And while if you are in, you also don't have any intelligence. While in
Right.
.NET Interactive, you have everything.
Yeah.
It's so much easier, and you have the diagrams. You can really play with it and see what is happening. So the nice thing would be that I can say, for example, here in my setup, if I would say endpoint, not Jinaga, but Jinaga/read, for example, and that automatically he's gonna use, he's not gonna send
Okay.
this, but he's gonna send this one. And
Okay, I see.
he's really gonna use the read interface,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the one I'm using here. I'm not using the query. I'm using this one, the read interface.
Okay.
Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one, result from specification. Because this one, query is still using SQL from steps. That's the query interface.
Yeah.
Is SQL from steps. So by using the read interface, I can really debug.
Mm-hmm.
But now, would this be of value to anybody else than myself? I don't know. If we depends on what will be the reference implementation
Yeah.
for the database. If we say the SQLite or the post, or for example, a SQL implementation in .NET will be the reference implementation. Yeah, then this
Mm-hmm.
debugging has to be used only once. So then it might not be worth it.
Yeah. So I think offering two reference implementations is definitely a good thing. Um, so yeah, I would like to be able to support this kind of debugging. Uh, yeah. So the Janaga library that an application developer is intended to use um, has no need for the read endpoint, but it's very useful if you're using Postman. And so you are working on the read endpoint um, for SQLite, um, and so you would like. Oh, that's interesting. Wait a minute. Okay, well, let me finish. Let me finish with the thought here. So basically, what I'm thinking is um, that we can create a different class that's not Janaga, but yet brings in just the right components, so that it can make this read call and give you back basically since read gives you back a JSON string, maybe it can just simply return a deserialized JSON string, so just a dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
and so instead of passing in the specification language, I think what you're seeing is that you get a lot of value from being able to save facts and write the link specification and just say execute this link specification using the read endpoint.
Um, yeah, but that should not be a problem, because actually that conversion we have already. Yeah?
Yes.
If you
Yeah.
just say specification to string, it converts,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can send the outcome of that easily into the interface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you could do all of this setup using the true Janaga class, and then you grab the specification string, and then you just have this other thing off to the side that can just post that specification string to the read endpoint, and then.
If I would just, for example, here,
Mm-hmm.
Jinaga dot read,
Mm-hmm.
and here var JSON equal to
Mm-hmm.
something like this.
Yeah.
Then I have my JSON here, and then I can just say JSON here, and he will visualize it.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I guess I can just visualize that in .NET Interactive as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I think .NET Interactive will give you that same kind of a table view of your JSON.
Yeah.
I think is what it will do. Um, okay.
So that would be very very easy to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you all the possibilities of Postman, but just a little bit more high level, and very interactive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is useful. Yes. Yes. So, should it be actually j.read, or should it be something else that that just says, "Hey, call the read endpoint"? In fact, that something else might be, yeah. With it being something else, it doesn't have to have any knowledge at all of Janaga, because you've already created the specification string. So that something else is just basically HTTP client, and JSON serializer. So yeah, I would say, yeah, I would just write that utility, compile it, and then just load it in as a
In
DLL.
fact, it doesn't need, once you have the specification, if you just send it as an HTTP request, just like in Postman, yeah, you don't need Jinaga for it anymore.
Yeah.
It's just network communication. That's
Right.
true.
Yeah. So the only problem is you don't have a nice simple network communication that you can call as a single function in uh, interactive. So I don't know if you're familiar with Axios. That's a JavaScript library that basically simplifies HTTP client stuff for JavaScript, and it basically boils it down to one function. It's like, post this to the server, give me back the result. It's like, that's all I want.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
here we are in .NET, not in JavaScript.
Yeah. Yeah, but if there, actually, I would have, I'll have to go looking for it. Is there an Axios.net? Is there already something that's just a single one-liner? Post this to that endpoint and give me back the results as a JSON object.
Michael, but what we could do is just make a small library, just based on HTTP client, that has all the parameters, all the setup inside.
Yeah.
Make it a NuGet packet, and then you can just import it as a NuGet package.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm wondering is if somebody's already done that, because it seems like a useful thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then one thing that you're missing here is you're getting the specification, but you're not getting the declarations for the for the inputs. You're then taking that specification, you're pasting it in underneath some declarations that are already there. So
Yeah.
so I think what I'll need to do is give you a way to produce that string. So in fact, it'll be kind of like j.query, except just give me back the whole string that takes these givens and this specification, and then you can use that.
Yeah.
So
you need the starting point.
yeah. So that would be yeah. Okay. So the things that I could do is one, finish out the parser so that the read endpoint actually will work for you. Two, give you a function inside of Janaga that takes, it's basically like j.query, except it just gives you back the full specification string. And then three, either one of us could build that library that you were talking about that wraps a HTTP client.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's very fast see whether there were still a few things which yeah. I still had a link question, but we are running out of time, so I will just have to search a little bit more myself then.
Okay.
If I don't.
I'm tempted to say let's go forward with the link question. Yeah, in Texas right now, everything's frozen over. I'm going to be working from home today, so it's like, yeah, I don't have that drive time. Let's go ahead and use that time right now.
Okay. If I take it too long, you tell me, or if you have something urgent.
Yeah.
No, that's not that one. It's Visual Studio that I need. I will see this one. Then I have to go to my SQLite store. Was it fact get fact type ID? That was the one. Fact type ID here. Let's make a little bit more space here. Okay, so we have a get fact type ID,
Mm-hmm.
and we have an ensure get fact type ID.
Yeah.
The ensure will just throw an error if it doesn't find the type in the database. But the get fact type ID, he should not give an error.
Right.
But so this should return a null if the fact type is not found. But I'm afraid I did it with first or default, but that will not give me a null, I think, but just a 0.
Yeah.
Because here I have a sequence of integers.
Yeah.
So how can I do it in link that either it finds a fact type ID, either it returns me a null?
Yeah. There actually is a
Is there a better way
utility. I think there's an incremental improvement where you can change both of those from the first version to the single version. That way, it's more strict and it represents your intent a little bit better. So yeah, .single for the ensure. So there should be one. There should be only one. Just be really strict about that. And then the other one, singular default. Yeah, it'll give you back a null if it's if there's nothing there, but then it'll throw if there are too many. And there should never be too many because name should be an alternate key.
Yeah.
So that's a small incremental improvement there, but that wouldn't solve the actual issue that you're talking about. So let's see, there actually is a way to, yeah, I have run into something like this before, where you can specify what the default is. Yeah, I mean, you could write the whole thing out yourself. Basically, rather than do the first default or singular default, you get the collection, and then if the collection is empty, return null. If not, return the first one. But yeah, there already is a way in Link to just say that. I know there is.
Some of these, was it first or default? They have the possibility to add in your own default value. But this one, no, you don't have this.
It's.
No, it just can take a predicate, nothing else.
Yeah, I do remember that we had to. We had to do this on a. Oh, okay. Default if empty. That was what it was. Yeah, so if you do a default if empty before you do the first or defaults. I think.
Well, it's not default if empty. Okay, and here I can specify. Not in the first one, in the second. Int default value. No, I cannot.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, ultimately the problem is that it's inferring that this is an int. It's not inferring optional or nullable int. So we actually need to, where you do the n.factTypeID, if you do a cast to nullable int right there, then you might not even need to do the default of empty. Yeah, so inside the select n arrow, then right there, cast, parentheses, int question. Yeah.
This.
Yes, and now you might not even need the default of empty.
Okay, because now the default value becomes null.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
That was a good one.
How can I test it right now? Where am I using this thing? Find all the references. Yeah. The roles left, so if I would, I even haven't tested whether all this at path condition, whether this is really working. So to use it here, I'm not sure that he's gonna get there. But so if in my SQL store test, I still in debugger mode here. This one I can put out. So so if I would on the left side, so I could just change that name to something else. Yeah, for example, a 1 behind it.
Okay.
No, he's not gonna complain.
Oh, right, yeah, it's doing the type check. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be that you don't have it in your database, so yeah. So if you comment out the flight, so you don't add the flight to your database, and then you clear out your database. When you clear out your database, are you also deleting all of the fact types, or just deleting the facts in the edges?
Here I'm not. Wait, it's a new SQLite store.
Oh, right, yeah. So this one,
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if I don't have the flight.
Yeah, then it shouldn't know about that role in the database, and that should get us into the right scenario.
Right. Not, and it was here that he used it. Let's see whether he gets there. He might fail. I've just been translating without really. Yeah, that one. Continue. Yeah, that one. Continue. Yeah, here we have a problem already. Exception thrown. Object cannot be set to an instance of object. known fact was null. Yeah, so I'm not getting there. Known facts here. Yeah, no. So why is it? Can you not use a contains key if
You can
if
use
it's
it on
not?
an empty collection, but yeah, not on a null. So I think earlier earlier on when you're creating that collection of known facts.
This one comes from here. Known facts is here. Just goes in again in the there. At edges comes from here.
Yeah.
Known facts. That's what is it. It goes fact by label. So create, and that's here. And indeed, I make it. That's the one, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So if instead that were just an empty collection.
That's an.
I think that's an immutable dictionary.
Was it?
I think immutable dictionary.
Let's see. Like by label.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
That's right. Yeah, we. Oh, okay. Yeah, you did the using thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that one I haven't changed yet. So where were we?
Yeah, so you actually should be able to say fact by label dot empty, and that gives you an empty dictionary.
Where was I? Here. Fact by label dot empty.
Yeah, which is a property, not a string or not a function. So you just you don't call it as a function. That is a static, empty dictionary.
Yeah, but why is he giving?
I think it's just that you're still running, and it says, "Oh, I can't rebuild it," so you have to stop and then restart. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Why is he not refreshing my tests here? Doesn't. Okay. Made the column a little bit debug. Where is he going now? The screen is so small.
Okay, sequence contains no elements, so it looks like you got into something that was doing a first.
Line 525. That was.
This actually might be. This actually might be the exception that you're looking for. Oh wait, no.
No.
Add path condition. Yeah, that's different.
525. Line 525. Is here. And that's indeed in the add path condition. Just the error message. Wait, if we block this one, I'm not just being doing something funny with that aggregate. Come on. Every time he makes it smaller. If you here, debug. You see, fact
Okay.
was null.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where we got into.
Yeah. Why is that fact? If fact is null, oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So it was trying to throw that exception, but in creating
and
that
I blocked it out.
exception, in creating that exception, it ran into another exception, which I think is knownfacts.keys. That was returning an empty collection, and that aggregate that it's doing in there doesn't know how to operate on an empty collection.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might actually just take a little bit more work inside of that error handler there in order to express that there are no known facts.
Yeah, but normally, fact is okay. So,
Yeah.
So this one was 0.
Yeah, that version of aggregate doesn't have a starting point, so it takes the first one and then the second one and aggregates them together. Or if there's only one, it returns the first one. But if it's empty, then all bets are off.
But anyway, Michael, fact was 0, was null.
Yeah.
And so he threw that exception.
Yeah, so that's truly the thing that we were trying to figure out. Okay.
So,
yeah.
And now we get an exception here, of course, because normally it should have thrown out here.
Okay.
But label right was airline day. So airline day should normally be in the known facts already. Why is it not in?
Let's see.
Yes. No, that's flight. That's the flight which I add here. Which I don't add here.
Yeah.
Wait. Non-label right. Airline day. And here he was asking for airline day.
Yeah, which I believe in this case is the given. Is that true?
Yes.
So
you have
somehow
the
it's
airline,
making
the airline day, and the flight. But look, here you have airline day. So if it's not in the known facts, then we were gonna add it here. Label right, airline day, fact description. We add it to the known facts. So something went wrong here.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Because so it should be in the known facts. Okay, let's see what happens if we stop there. So we have airline day. If we look, known facts is nothing inside. So, so I get here, I say airline day and my fact description. Yeah, doesn't matter what a fact description is, just adding it. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Known facts dot.
Oh, okay. I see what's happening.
I should say known facts is known facts dot add.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Immutable collections.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are tricky.
Facts equal. Okay. Let's see where that gets us.
Yeah, eventually we will get to testing the thing that we actually changed.
Yeah, look, get fact type.
Okay.
So if we go in there, so the fact type is it's the skylane.flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we never
is
saved a Skylane flight, so it should not be in there.
yeah. Okay, we are gonna see
Hmm.
what it does. So yeah, that's all right. The fact types, and then go over it. Null.
No. Nice. Okay.
That's what we needed. And
Awesome.
if it is null, then type ID equal to null, then it should return that one.
Very good.
Type ID 15.
Yes. I love it. And then we probably have a similar thing happening with get role ID. It's probably going to come back as 0. Is that right?
Why is, I thought it was null, but it's 15.
Because you already went through the. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay. I think actually we were inspecting the type ID variable while we were still on the
On the
assignment.
assignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Darn.
Right.
Didn't quite work. Yeah. So yeah, fact types. It looks like it's got a lot more fact types in there than I would expect. So I think it's probably still persisting the.
It's doing something funny.
Yeah.
You want to go through it together, or
I will leave that to you. Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna take up your time.
Yeah.
No, but we are getting on the good way, but it takes a lot of time. But I'm learning this way, so it's not time wasted.
No.
So.
And in fact, there's one last thing that I found while we were chatting. If you take a look at where did it go? There it is. Oops. Yeah. So this guy created a HTTP wrap, and it is just that NuGet package, and you just say get async, pass in the URL. Okay, well that's get. Does it do posts? Yeah, here's post. So yeah, you do a put async, and so this should be able to take the string. I'm guessing. It's looking like it's JSON serializing the object, but if you just say a string, then yeah, that gives you back the response, which gives you access to the status code as well as the body, as we saw. The data right here. Yeah.
Data,
yeah. So that should be pretty close to what you're looking for there.
Okay. I'll try that out, and I will let you know next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Then HTTP wrap. I wrote it down.
Okay.
Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And then we see each other next week.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.